Hey everybody. Well, it's Saturday. It's race day. This is actually race number 10, but it's really race number 9. And the reason why I'm saying that is because race number 9 was rained out. So this would officially be race number 10, but today we're going to call it race number 9 because we're racing again next week, or is actually today race number 10 and next weekend is race number 9. Anyways, I'm heading to the races today, but before I do, I need to switch out my motor mount. What I've got is a Triple T motor mount that was actually used for a World Formula motor. When I had the World Formula motor on it, the exhaust actually went up over the, what would be the chain guard, and didn't interfere with it when I changed sprockets and stuff like that, and didn't have a problem. But since I switched to LO206, I'm still using that, from what Curtis said, 5-degree Triple T motor mount. Got tired of taking links out of chains and adding links to chains, pain in the butt. So yesterday I went out and got a Triple T 7-degree motor mount, and I'll be installing that today. Triple T makes several great components. One of the things they make is the 5-degree motor mount. I think they might even make even less than that. I'm not sure. I know that they make a 7-degree because that's what I'm adding. They make the chain guard, which keeps your chain from falling off. When we raced World Formula, if you didn't have that chain guard on, you ended up losing a chain at least once or twice throughout the season. Since I put the new Triple T chain guard on my rear sprocket, haven't lost the chain once. They also make some awesome chain guards for the which bolt to the motor, which I've got 1 or 2 of those that I'll show to you today. Anyways, we're going to get this started, and after we're done, we'll see you guys at the races. Oh, and I want to show you guys, I'm sporting the brand new Innovative Karting. You can tell he went to blue shirts that RaceBumTV's been using for almost all their videos. Just looks good on video. Anyways, you can see Innovative Karting at the top. I think that Intrepid Kart should go underneath, but they don't. The Evenco could care less about that. But anyways, this is the new Innovative Karting shirt. I am here to show it to you for the first time and see what you guys think. And I'll see you guys not only in the rest of this video, but I'll see you at the track in about 3 hours. Have a great day, everybody. Okay, before you get working on any job, let's get the tools laid out that we're going to need for this particular job. We need a pair of cutters that we can cut zip ties with. We're going to need this to take the motor mount off. This is what they call a torque. It's made by Beta. It's a number 8. We're going to need a standard screwdriver. Down at the bottom, what do we need? I know I need a 13 or a half. 13 and a half will do the same job. I'm going to need a 15, pair of pliers, maybe a pair of needle nose. You might need a zip tie. That's about all we're going to need. Yep, that's all we need for this job. Left out one thing. You can also use this. This is a 10 millimeter that I use sometimes to take the for the throttle cable that goes to the what do you call it, the motor itself. So anyways, those are the tools you need. So what we're going to do right now is just go over what needs to be removed. You need to remove your fuel line. You need to remove your wire that goes to your spark plug for your tach. You got a 10 millimeter nut here that is for your throttle. You need to take out your throttle slide. You'll take out a 15 millimeter nut right here. That's the one in the front. There's also one in the back. You got 2 1/2 inches up front, and then in the back you have one nut right here, and you got the 2 1/2 inches right here, and then you'll pull out your overflow here, and you'll pull out your breather that's on your valve cover. So pretty simple. Shouldn't take me more than probably 4 or 5 minutes to take it all apart. Okay, the first thing I always take off when I start is I take off my vent tube in the back, and I take off my and I always throw everything in my seat. I take off the little breather tube. These are just the pieces from the back of the motor. Throw those in there. I take off my throttle. I'll take off the tack wire, pull that over to the side. Need this. This is a 10 millimeter here. Takes that off. Sometimes you can use an impact. Just don't have gorilla hands when you're using the impact. Same thing when you're using this wrench. Don't have gorilla hands and break it, guys. One more important thing. a magnetic tool tray. Very, very handy piece of equipment to have. That way you don't lose anything. Now with your throttle cable, you can stick that inside your seat. Got to cut the zip tie for your fuel line so that we are legal. Try not to hit your fuel line and nick it, otherwise you'll have a leak. Dispose of zip tie in proper place. Don't throw it on the ground like I just did. Okay, now we have all the connections with basically disconnected that hook to the motor. Now we're going to go to the motor. You can do this one of two ways. You can leave the motor mount on the go-kart and pull the motor off, or you can actually pull the motor mount completely off and do it over on the bench. Since I don't want to chase the motor around, I'm going to unloosen the 1/2-inch bolt nuts that actually bolt the motor to the motor plate itself. I think that just takes less time. It also makes it to where I'm not chasing the motor all over my bench and stuff. Because you definitely want these 4 bolts that hook the plate to the motor tight. And then you want the 2 nuts that hook the plate to the motor mount tight also. Now I keep referring to them as, you've got 2 pieces. You've got the motor mount, which actually mounts to your chassis itself. And then you've got a motor plate, which allows you to, this one's tight. Somebody had gorilla hands. Oh, yeah. Holy crap. Anyways, this one, man. Folks, everybody, don't have gorilla hands. There's no reason for it to be that tight. Wow. Okay, all 4 of those are out. Now you'll start with these. Just get these loose. This takes a 15mm wrench. Now underneath these 2 nuts is a keeper. The keeper, sometimes you got to use a screwdriver to get it out. You got a keeper. This piece slides. The motor mount's made out of aluminum, so this piece keeps it there, and then your nut goes on top. Triple T really has it figured out with all their machine work, with how they do this and stuff. The components work together so well. Okay, that's done, that's done, that's done. This motor is pretty much ready to come off. You're going to slide the motor back. Oop, I forgot one piece, hold on. Okay, there we go. You slide the motor back. Get your chain off the sprocket for the motor. And then lift said motor straight out. Now all that's left on the chassis is the motor mount itself. There's 2 torques underneath. One sits right about here, and the other one's right about here, one's right about here. You'll take those 2 torques out. Now I've got this all the way back, or within 1/8 of an inch. I'm hoping my new one will work in the same spot. Now this is a great opportunity, once you've got it to this point, to clean your go-kart. Nobody likes a dirty go-kart, especially if you plan on being in the winner's circle. Nobody wants to look at a dirty go-kart in the winner's circle. So take pride in your go-kart and do a little cleaning at this point. Now what I use to take the motor mount off is a product that, it's a torque, and it's made by Beta, B-E-T-A. They make probably 6 to 9 different variations, different sizes. They make one that has a 10mm at one end, 10mm here. These are fantastic. Guys, they're not cheap, but they also don't round out your Allen head bolts. So far I haven't had to replace any of my hardware due to having a piece of crap tool. These are hardened at the end, which means that these little pieces down here at the ends do not round out. This is a really good quality product. You know, if you're going to Harbor Freight and getting your tools, yeah, that'll help you out, get you started. but as you get more serious into go-karting, you're going to want to get good quality tools. Okay, there's no real secret to how to do this. Stick it in there and turn counterclockwise. That's really all there is to it. Come on. Okay, now that you got both plates off, you just pull it off. So, not too bad. A little bit of cleaning up to do. So, that's kind of what it looks like. Well, before I dive in and show you the difference between the 7-degree motor mount and the old 5-degree that I pulled off, I figured I'd show you all the benefits of this new one. The new one is similar to the old one. They both slide back and forth. So you got a 15mm nut here and a 15mm nut there. And it has the same kind of keepers in there, just like the other one has. But this one is unlike the other one, where it's actually got an adjustment where you can move the motor over. And on this side it says flywheel side. So you know that this goes to the flywheel side and stuff. These bolts are put in here and they're machined on the underside so everything is flush. I'll also show you that before I end this. I can kind of take these off as I'm talking. But anyways, this motor mount is made by Triple T. They offer some of the best features and benefits for Briggs & Stratton, either World Formula or LO206. Just with this feature right here, the way that it slides in right here. It's just, everything that they've done has really been thought out. They used a hardened nut so that it doesn't strip out. Now, on the back side of what I call the motor plate, you can see how it's all been machined out and threaded so that everything stays tight. When I put these 4 bolts in, always use a little bit of Loctite. But now you have one motor plate that can be used in 3 different, setups, depending on what your setup is on your kart or what motor you're using and stuff like that. Now, let me get on to the really cool part. Now this is the motor mount and motor plate that I pulled off my go-kart. Unlike this one over here, where you've got a couple extra positions where you can put the motor, this allows me to put this new one, all the way over toward the inside, or I can move it in the center, or I can move it over toward the outside of the go-kart, depending on where I need it. This one only allows me one spot to put it in. So the plate is still machined the same way on the underside, still has the same adjustments and stuff like that. This is perfect for World Formula, where the exhaust just doesn't hit the sprocket or the, actually it's not the sprocket it hits, it's hitting a top of the chain guard just by a little bit. And I'll show you what the Triple T chain guard looks like. Well, if any of you guys watched my last video, you know what this is. It's called the honesty gauge, or as we've referred to it in fabrication terms, it's called an angle finder. This table is dead nut 90 degrees, 100% even with the ground. So everything is even. Okay, when we take it like this and we put it over here, this is the old motor mount. See that motor mount is right at 5 degrees. So now we're going to take it over and we'll put it on the new motor mount. And the new motor mount is right around 7 to 8. Now, my angle finder works on gravity, so I'm going to go with, it's probably was machined at 7. But it could be, according to my gauge, between 7 and 8. And as I quit bumping the table, it pretty much looks like it's on 7. So anyways, that's the difference between these two mounts. One's a 7 degree and one's a 5 degree. Is one of them going to make me go any faster? Probably not. It's just definitely going to take away the frustration when I have to change the rear gearing on my kart, without knowing that I won't have to either add a link or subtract a link, depending on what my new gear ratio is going to be. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and install this one on, but I just kind of wanted to show you the difference between what we call the motor mount, the motor plate, the different angles and stuff like that, just to make you guys a little bit more educated on what's going on in the karting world. Now this is what the Triple T chain guard looks like. Your chain rides in the center of it, and your chain rides down just a little bit. You can see the difference. This keeps it from coming off the sprocket if you hit a curb or go off the track or anything like that. Our track here in Phoenix, Arizona, you go off the track, you're in the dirt. Some other tracks, like when I've raced at LAKC, if I go off the track, I'm still on blacktop. The only thing I have to worry about is some corners have curbs. Now what I do is, this is a split sprocket. I mark it right here. You can barely see my little nick right there. I actually marked it with a file right here, and then if you go 180 degrees, I put another mark right there. The reason why I do that is so that this is a split sprocket. When I'm lining it up so that I don't get the wave in the sprocket, I always put the mark all the way to the back, and then I'll tighten it up, my chain. And then I'll leave the chain tight, and then I'll tighten up the bolt on the top, and I'll tighten up the bolt on the bottom. And then I'll spin it again, and I'll check it again. Once I make sure that I don't have any wave in my chain, then I'll go through and do the other four, and I'll retighten the top and the bottom. But I just do that. I don't know if anybody else does that. If anybody else has a Triple T, what do you guys do to keep your chain from not waving up and down or going back and forth when you're tightening it up? Leave something in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. This is the aluminum chain guard that bolts to the LO206 motor, as well as the World Formula, that's made by Triple T. Same company that makes the motor mount and makes the chain guards for the rear axle and stuff. This is just one more quality product that Triple T makes. You got 3 mounts that mount to the side of the motor. It's got holes up on top for ventilation to keep it cool. I actually put duct tape over 4 of these holes because I wear a white, red, and orange race suit, and World Formula and Briggs, all Briggs motors tend to sling a lot of oil, and I get tired of cleaning the underside of my suit. So I tend to cover up these 3 holes. It's got one other bracket here. I believe that this bracket right here is when you've got it mounted to a World Formula motor, and you also have the electric start hook to it. So that's what I think that's for. I'm not 100% sure. The only thing I wish they would do, I wish they made this, if I look down view at it, I wish they made this so that it extends out about 4 inches. So as you're looking down, it'd be sitting like that, it'd be about 4 inches out. I think that'd make it a little bit better for, my purposes. Keeping the oil off my side of my motor and keeping the oil off of me. But other than that, it's an aluminum product. It's all heliarched really nice. Whoever heliarched it and welded it together did a really super good job. They sand and grind this side. Looks like it's been powder coated in black, but very good quality product. You can get these at Innovative Karting here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'll give a link to his website as well as a telephone number here in a second. But Curtis at Innovative Karting can get you not only the motor mount, but they can get you a chain guard like this for your motor, as well as they can get you the one for the rear axle. Well, I got the motor mount in place. Well, it's all bolted down. So I figured just for fun, I would see where the angle finder is. We're at about a degree, maybe at what I always call when I'm building a degree plus. I'm not to the next one, but I'm getting close. Okay, when I take this and I put it up here, yeah, I'm about 7-8 degrees. So this is going to be pretty cool. Well, right now I'm going to set the motor in place. That's pretty much all there is to it. So, put all the bolts in, or all the nuts in, I should say. Start putting it back together. Okay, I now have the 2 15mm nuts in place. I have the 2 1/2-inch nuts. I have the 2 1/2-inch nuts in the back and the 15 in the back. I've rehooked up my fuel line. I will now go ahead and hook up the throttle. Okay, when you're putting your slide back in your carburetor, you got this slide right here. That's how you get your throttle cable out, and your little keeper is held right here. You got your spring, and then you got your housing up on top. Over on this side is an angled piece. Right over here on your carburetor, this is the where you take your screwdriver and you can adjust your idle. So you got to make sure that this side is there. Now also, this is a round piece right here where my thumb and my index finger is, but it's offset to the one side. Consequently, on the top part of the carburetor, it's off to one side. So you want to make sure you know that when you're putting it together, to make sure you put your carburetor back together right. So you're going to take it with this part sliding toward the front. You're going to slide that in there first. You just got to kind of jiggle it until it goes into place, and then you'll push this into place. You got there again. Got to jiggle it around. Take your time. Do not force it. You take your keeper that holds the top part on, and just don't cross thread it. Take your time. If it doesn't go, start again. Just take your time screwing this part down. Sometimes it can be a pain in the butt. You don't want to cross thread this. Once it goes on, it'll feel a little bit resistant, but it'll definitely go on. Make sure you get it on there nice and tight. Okay? That's pretty much all you got to do. Now, what you're going to do is you go and you grab your throttle, you go all the way. You want to make sure that your slide is going all the way to the top without hearing a click. If it's going to the top, it means that you got to adjust your throttle cable, which we'll do in another video. I'll show you how to do that, but you definitely want to listen for it. You got to hook up your throttle keeper to the framework on the motor shroud. Just make it tight. You don't have to go crazy. Okay, now that we have the bolt hooked into the shroud that holds the throttle cable in, the next thing you're going to do is your wire for your tachometer. Or your micron, call it what you want. Anyways, this is gonna represent the spark plug wire. Basically what you do is you snap it on the spark plug wire. Where's the little keeper? It's got a little keeper on it, and it's got two holes. This goes through one side. You're gonna snap it on, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna wrap it around a couple times around the spark plug wire. Once you got it wrapped around, you're gonna stick it in the hole. So it kind of looks like this, and then you're gonna pull these two tight, so that when you're done, whoop, came out. So that it looks like that when you're done. Goes in one, wraps around 2 or 3 times, and comes out here. That way you get a really good connection with the spark plug wire to your micron, so that it gives you accurate readings. So once you got the wire on your spark plug, this is the way it should look. It comes through here, wraps around 2 or 3 times, and then goes through the other hole. It's not rocket science, folks. Just make sure that it's hooked to the spark plug wire so it doesn't come off. This is something you should periodically be checking. Next, we're going to go ahead and hook in the breather. We'll go ahead and hook in our overflow. Again, nothing hard. This has got a smaller hose on it than this one does. This one's got a larger one that hooks into the valve cover. This one hooks into the bottom of the carb. And it's got a little keeper on the bottom. And you'll hook it into the overflow port on the carburetor. Then you got a little rubber keeper. Hooks into place, comes around, goes down. Nothing fancy. There again, push into place, put it around, get it all. So it's, come on. There it goes. So, come on. Oh, I know why. With the motor being moved up 2 degrees, I'm having to pull this out a little bit because the motor was down. So that's why. Couldn't figure out why. I was like, why wasn't this working right? So, anyways, the only thing I got left to do is adjust my chain. Again, no gorilla hands. No need for that. And we're done. Let me show you what we accomplished. Back here, the exhaust used to be, I mean, barely touching it right here. I mean, it would be from this angle right here, man, you couldn't even put a Q-tip in between it. You couldn't put, I mean, it was almost touching it. That's why you can see some of the paint's been marked off the one side, because it was always hitting right there. So anyways, now, man, I got a good, man, 3/4 of an inch or so. So anyways, that's kind of what it looks like when you change from a one motor mount to the other. Everything else pretty much is the same. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, everybody, I'll see you guys at the races.